Hi ladies, this is Mrs. Blaufuss here. Today we're looking at lesson 4.1. So in this lesson we're talking a lot about parallels. So I just want to remind you of a few things since we'll be looking at parallel lines and parallel planes, how we name different pieces. So to start, let's look at naming a point. When we name a point, we always name it just by one capital letter. Okay, so point P. And when you name it, you don't actually use the quotation marks, but that's how we would name it. We would say point P. And a point will just look like a dot. And you'll see it on planes, you'll see it on lines, you'll see it in various diagrams. Remember, a line we name using two capital letters. So often you'll see a line and you'll see 2 points on that line that will be marked. So you'll see maybe point A and point B that are marked. And so we'll say line AB. Another way to do this is just by using one cursive letter. And I'll put that up here, so, or one script letter. Okay, so the same kind of line we might see as line M. Okay, so line AB, line M, two different ways of naming the lines. In a plane, we'll use 3 letters or one script letter. So in a plane, and you'll see this kind of like a piece of paper. Okay, we might name it plane P, or we might name it by points that are on the plane. So A, B, C. Okay, so either one of those is fine. And then lastly, an angle. So if this is our angle, we might see it like A here, C, let's call this J. Okay, so we might say angle A. Oh, here we go. Angle A, we might say angle CAJ, or we could also name this angle by its number. Okay, so if this was numbered angle 1, we could say angle number 1. Remember, when you're naming an angle with 3 letters, the vertex is in the center. So in this next example, let's practice naming lines using just letters instead of points that are on the line. So it says to draw, and you should use a straight edge for this, 2 parallel lines. And one of those lines is line L, and one of those lines is line M. Okay, so those letters will be off of the line, they're not points on the line. And then it says indicate on the diagram that the lines are parallel. That's when we're going to use our feathers. So we use feathers when we're indicating on a diagram that lines are parallel, but if it's just written, our symbol for parallel is those 2 slashes. So line L is parallel, and we can just use those 2 slashes. Line L is parallel to line M. Okay, that's how you'll see it written, but when you're marking a diagram, you're using these feathers. So let's just refresh our definitions. Remember, parallel lines are lines on the same plane that never intersect. Okay, so a diagram could be the one that you just drew. Okay, so here's two lines, and they are parallel. Or again, you could say line L is parallel to line M. And I'll just label these as line L and line M. Parallel planes, those would be two planes that never intersect. And we don't mark our diagrams parallel when we're talking about planes. We don't use feathers on the planes, but you will still use something like this. So instead of saying line, though, I might say plane. P is parallel to plane Q. And then skew lines, these are going to be lines on different planes that never intersect. And on a diagram, again, we don't have a marking for skew, but on a diagram, you'll see something that looks like a plane. You'll see a line on that plane. So I'm just going to call this line M. And then if it's skew to another line, I'm going to see that line, but I'm not going to see the whole thing. Oops. So I'm going to see it go through that plane, but then the end of it is going to be dotted. Okay, so as it goes through the plane, it's going to be a dotted line indicating that that part is hidden. Okay, I can't actually see it because it's behind my plane. But you might still see, like you'll still see a point where it intersects with the plane. But here, line N and line M are skew lines. They don't actually intersect, and you can kind of see, if you can imagine the depth of that plane, N and M are never going to actually hit each other. So let's do a little bit of practice naming all the planes that are parallel to ABC. So the first thing that I would do when looking at this is I would outline plane ABC. So A, B, C, and D are all points on plane ABC. Naming a plane, remember you use 3 letters when you name a plane. So the plane that's parallel to ABC would be the bottom of this box. Okay, the bottom of this prism, which is EFG. You could say EFG, or you could say EHG. Any 3 of those 4 letters that are on the bottom plane are parallel to ABC. Next, it says name all segments that intersect at AB. When you're done with when you're done answering this, your diagram should be pretty marked up. Okay, so you should be outlining these every time you're looking at a segment or a plane. You should outline it so that you know exactly where you're looking. So all segments that intersect AB would be BC, AD, and AH, AE, and then lastly, BF. Okay, and then don't forget your segment markings. Okay, so all of these you should have segment markings above this. And then you can either use a different color or erase your markings. Then it says name all segments parallel to FG. Well, let's find FG first. Okay, we want all segments that are parallel to FG. So that would be EH, AD, and BC. BC, AD, EH. Those are all parallel to FG. And then the last one, it says name all segments that are skew to EF. So let's look at EF. And skew lines are lines that are not going to intersect, but that are also not on the same plane. So DH and GH would both be skew. Those are not, they don't share a plane to EF, and they're also not parallel. And they never intersect. So DH, GC, but also AD would never intersect with EF, but it's also not parallel. And BC would never intersect, but it's not parallel. And then lastly, AH. All of the other segments in this diagram are either parallel or they intersect with EF. So AH, BC, AD, CG, and HD. Okay, and again, don't forget your segment markings. Okay, so those lines are all skew. Using the same diagram, try naming some on your own, and then you can unpause the video, pause the video while you work, and you can unpause for the solution. There's only one plane that's parallel to ABF, and that's CDG. In the second one, all the segments that intersect DH, that would be any segment that intersects at point D or point H. Okay, so you can see at H there's 3 other segments that intersect there, and at point D there are 2 other segments that intersect. So a total of 5. All segments parallel to CD is BA, GH, and EF. And then the last one, all segments that are skew to AB, there are 4. CG, CH, FB, and EH. Now, one question that is often asked is looking at AB, why is GH not skew? And the answer is because you can draw a plane in. A, B, H, and G are all on the same plane. And so since AB and GH never intersect, but they're on the same plane, that makes those parallel, not skew. So please jot down any questions you have, and we can go over them next time I see you. Thank you.